What do I buy? How do I get on the air? What do I say? Etc. etc. Okay, so this is usually the lesson that everybody wants. So this is what we're going to give you tonight. We brought all the equipment to demonstrate it. Okay, if we can go up just a little. Oh, sorry. Okay, what do you need to get started? This isn't on the test. I've been putting this in just to make sure I don't upset you with all this information. You need a transceiver, HF transceiver or VHF, UHF, base, mobile, or handheld. So this is a base HF station. It goes from 160 meters to 6 meters. This is the power supply, and this is a 2 meter only radio. This is intended for mobile, but you can use it as a base station, which is what I do, and you can also have a handheld. You've probably seen them around. You need a power supply. There's the power supply, or you need a supply of voltage. You need the 13.8 volts. However you get it, from batteries, solar cells, whatever source you can get it from, you need the 13.8 volts. Now, in terms of amperage, this, if you're sending out 100 watts on that, you need, or if you have it set at 100 watts, you need 20 amps of DC power, not AC power. You need 20 amps of DC power. This will produce 35. It's always recommended that you overkill it. You know, if it requires 20, get yourself a 35. It just may happen you got both radios on at the same time, some kind of fluke, you're transmitting them both at the same time. You don't want to blow anything up, okay? So give yourself that that leeway. Now this weighs a ton because it's got a transformer in it, right? But if you get a switching power supply, it's that big, okay, and doesn't weigh anything at all, and it'll do the same job, and it's probably cheaper than this. But Astron is, I shouldn't plug any company, but Astron really makes really good quality equipment. And a good thing about them is if the board blows in it, you send a weight to them and they will replace the board. How old the power supply is. Also, it's recommended that you get the voltmeter and the ammeter, because if something goes wrong, you want to see exactly what's happening. Okay, with these dials will tell you exactly what, if your voltage has gone screwy, or if your amperage is something wrong with your amperage. So those are, it's very convenient to have that sort. But the switching power supply will do the same job for you. Okay, the mics, they usually come with the radio. This is a standard Kenwood mic. Some people get very fancy mics. You don't need them. That mic will work very well, and you're going to have to buy a key, okay, if you're going to do Morse code, because they will not supply that when they sell you the radio. Okay, and this is the dummy low, okay, that Norm was so kind to lend me, and this way I don't blow my radio out tonight. I'll plug that into the antenna jack. Okay, if we can go up a little. You need, oops, just down a little. You need an antenna tuner if your rig doesn't have an antenna tuner. Antenna tuner is built in. A lot of the base station radios, antenna tuner is built right in. But if you don't have an antenna tuner built in, or if your antenna is a really odd one, okay, where the internal antenna tuner can't cover it, then you'll buy an external antenna tuner, and it will help you cover all the frequencies, okay? You need a grounding system. And this is a picture of my grounding system at home. This is it'll take care of static discharge. Most of the time, if if you get a direct strike, well then forget it. You know, all bets are off. If you get a direct strike, you never know what's going to happen with a direct strike. But what happens is, what happened to an earlier version of this radio, the lightning hit about 3 houses away, and there's enough of a static discharge in the air that it went through the radio and blew out some parts. So these devices here, and this is an example that Norm brought tonight. This is an example that goes to ground. This one is in and one is out. I guess it doesn't make a difference. One is in and one is out. That goes to ground. And if you get a static discharge, this will blow and save your radio. So, you know, when you're spending $2,000 for a radio, you don't want to have it blow up on you. The other thing you can do is just take this off the radio. See? Just take that off and leave it somewhere. You know, it would be good if you put it into the receptacle, the SO239, and had that grounded. So you're screwing it in on the wall or something, have it grounded, just like I have there, right? So that's usually the best procedure, is to ground it. I went to this system because I always left my antenna on, and then I'd hear the lightning at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd get out of bed and disconnect it, you know. So this saves me the trouble of getting out of bed early in the morning to disconnect the antenna. Okay. Yes, this is my own grounding system. I have a brass plate with 2 of these units, different one, but 2 of those units are on there. One for HF, one for VHF. And you can see the grounding wire. Everybody complains about this. Your grounding wire is a little thin. It's true. My grounding wire is a little thin, but I just didn't want to bring in a real heavy piece of copper. Okay, so moving right along. This is on the test. What are the modes? You should know this by now, all the modes that are available. This is not everything that's available in amateur radio. There's a heck of a lot of things that are available. Sideband, single sideband, also called phone or voice. FM, frequency modulation, which is also voice, but it's a different form of modulation. You're going to get that next week. He's going to talk about FM modulation. CW, continuous waves. Why call it continuous waves? It doesn't make any sense, because it's off and on all the time. Well, why would you call it continuous? It's not continuous. Well, really it is, because although it's off and on, the waveform is not changed. The waveform is always the same. In other words, there's no modulation. That's why it's called continuous waves, which we call Morse Code, or we just call it CW. Okay, digital, which includes a great variety of digital modes. The old one, RTTY, PSK, a more modern one, and there's got to be a million modes, digital modes. There's a great variety of digital slow scan and regular television. The old one, RTTY, PSK, a more modern one, and there's a regular television amateur radio operator, okay, on channel 59. There you go. Okay, let's review repeaters. There's VHF and UHF. You need to know what that means. It uses mainly, it started off AM, but nowadays it uses mainly FM modulation. And the repeater can be linked to the internet to provide worldwide communication. There is D-Star system, there's a fusion system, a separate system, there's Echolink, there's IRLP, and you can get on the internet, and without an HF radio you could talk essentially all around the world with just your handheld radio. That's how electronics has advanced. A repeater operation is called duplex, which means you're receiving a signal on one frequency and transmitting on another. Duplex, okay? That's a term you need to remember. Simplex, both of you are using the same frequency. And that's mainly what you do. Most of the time, that's what you're doing on HF. And this is why you usually say over, you know, end of transmission or whatever to tell the other person it's their time to talk, okay? Moving right along. Okay, so a repeater picks up your frequency, picks up your transmitted signal and retransmits it on your receive frequency. For example, our VE3SOO receives at 14964 and you transmit on 149340. Okay, so the repeater does the opposite of what your handheld does. So whatever signal you send out at 146940, it retransmits it on the 149,640. Let's see if we can show you this. Okay, so here it is, 146,940, right? That's our Sioux repeater. And if I got an, hang on here, before I blow the thing up. Yeah, I got it on the dummy load. So if I key the transmitter, and you see what it did? It went to 340. Okay? Went to 340. Now the difference between the two is called offset, and it's usually 600 kilohertz. That's the offset, and it's either positive or negative. So you either subtract or add the 600 kilohertz from the main frequency. Okay. There's also a tone, and you're going to get this. This is going to be repeated a number of times. This information. Okay. There's also a tone. So when I key up, there's a tone that you cannot hear. It's 107.2 hertz, not kilohertz, hertz. So it's an audible tone that's sent through the transmission. What that does is it tells the repeater, this person, open up the repeater. If that tone wasn't there, the repeater wouldn't open up, wouldn't work for you. Now, why do they put the tone in? Well, because interference and any stray signal could come along and open up the repeater, and then the repeater's constantly opening and closing, opening and closing. It makes a kind of kerjunking sound. So with the tone in there, it prevents that from happening. So that's a very good reason for having it. So you need to remember those things. You need to remember duplex, simplex, you need to remember offset, and you need to remember tone.
Who sends the tone?
Your radio sends it.
As soon as you key the mic,
yeah, it's set up.
The frequency and the tone.
I don't know if you can see it. There's a button there. It says tone. Okay. And through function tone, you could set. There's a whole chart of tones that you could set.
And you have to have the tone, whatever is designated for the repeater.
Yes. Now there are charts. There are charts that you can get on the internet, which will tell you, what repeater has what tone. All of our repeaters use 107.2. Okay. Just to make it easy in this area. But other repeaters in Southern Ontario may not have a tone on them, or they may have a different tone on them. Okay? Okay, so here, the next section here. Why is it difficult to make a mistake on a modern transceiver? This is not really on the test, but I want to give you a broader understanding. So here we have an HF transmitter hooked up to the outback antenna. And what are we saying here? It will cut back power. So if the SWR was off, let's see what it is. Here, I'll hit the tune button. Okay, when it does that, it tells you that it's tuned. Okay? It will send in Morse code SWR to tell you that it's not tuned. Okay? If it's high, it'll still send you the little beep, and if you transmit, testing, okay, I can't see the SWR jump up. What do you got here? Well, no wonder. It's on CW. Okay, we'll put it on. Okay, it's saying it's got a 1-to-1. It's saying it's got a 1-to-1. But let's say it started to get around 3. Okay? Due to where you're tuning your transmitter, the frequencies you're tuning, your type of antenna, etc., etc., then this will start cutting back the power. Instead of putting out 100 watts, it's going to cut it back, cut it back, cut it back. So it's protecting, the radio is actually protecting your, you from blowing the thing up. This is why these things are made foolproof these days. A question?
So all these settings for the power and the SWR, it's already in there.
It's all, yeah, everything is in there. What I'm trying to say here is they're making it foolproof. Okay, they're making it idiot-proof, really, on any one you buy. So it's going to cut back the power. You do not have to check that you're on the accurate frequency. Okay, if I put this here, 14.030, I know that that's going to be accurate. It's just a characteristic of the radio. In the old days, you had what was called a crystal calibrator. Okay, and you turn that on and it created a signal, and you use that to adjust your dial to make sure that it was right on. But you don't have to do that nowadays. Okay, this is right on. You don't have to adjust them in it. If you had to adjust it, then there's something seriously wrong with the radio. Okay, so that's how good they are. You will not be able to transmit out of band. You know, I know they're requiring you to memorize all the band edges, right? You have to know where the band begins and where the band ends. That's part of the test. They're going to ask you 20 meters. Where does it begin? Where is it? I know where they all begin. 20 meters begins at 14.000. I think it ends at 14.30. Am I right, Norm? A little 14.35? Okay. So that's where it ends. You've got to know that. But when you get one of these rigs, you don't have to know that, because I'll show you. Okay, let's cut the power back. Power. Oh. Power. Okay, 100 watts. We don't want 100 watts. We'll go for 50 watts. Power. Okay, so watch here. And you'll see the 100 watts come up, or the 50 watts. You see the 50 watts come up?
Bruce, bring it down more, as you're taking this off.
I'm taking the TV out.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
Try 5 or 10.
5 or 10. There's 5. Okay, you can see it come up, right? That it's working. Now, I'm going to go out of band. I'm going to take this out of band here. Now, you may not know it's out of band, but that's all right. See, because when you buy one of these, you take it out of band, well, it's not even won't transmit. Okay? It knows where the band edges are, and won't let you transmit there, no matter what you do. You cannot transmit out of band.
Where did it select the band? You selected the band first, then, right?
Yeah, you select the band here.
Yeah, okay.
You see, and then
Yep.
it'll start transmitting right here. You see? See? It's transmitting this 5 watts. But as soon as I go out of the band, it won't work.
That's because you selected it first on the
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah. So, yes.
Second, I just had this in my head. If you were, crap, I forgot my question. It was related to what he was saying.
Yeah, there's a band selector here. I select the band here. There's many ways of putting in a frequency on these radios. But you select the band, and then I know this is the 20 meter band.
And you go up and down the band. However.
And they go up and down the band tuning like this, yes?
So it doesn't do it automatically. It doesn't.
No, you have to tell it what band to go on.
Like, what I mean is, like, say you pick the 20 meter band, right?
Yes.
The radio won't automatically go right to the beginning of the band.
Mm.
You still have to move it.
Um,
Or tune it or.
There's a way of doing that to get it to the, yes. With this radio, there's a way you can get it to the beginning of the band.
That's for manufacturing.
Yeah, but you'll learn that later, how to do it. Yeah, each radio is different. Yeah. Okay, so you will not be able to transmit out of band. If you use the recommended settings, you won't overmodulate. If you do what they tell you, it's impossible to overmodulate, which was another old problem. You do not have to adjust your bandwidth. You know, the regulations always talk about bandwidth. Well, nobody adjusts their bandwidth. Harmonic transmissions are totally suppressed. This has got a low-pass filter in it. It suppresses harmonic transmissions. You don't have to buy a low-pass filter. Okay, now why am I mentioning this? Because you're going to see in the regulations are going to say you have to have a device which monitors by which you can set your frequency or know what exact frequency you're on. You have to have a device to control your modulation, etc., etc. The regulations are based on all the old equipment. You see? Now, if you buy a modern rig, you don't have to worry about it. If you build a kit, then all of these things you're going to have to worry about. That you don't transmit out of band, that you don't overmodulate, etc., etc. Okay, let's move along. Okay, this is the base station. This is on the test. This is a HF base station. You need to know this block diagram. So it's another case of memorization, unfortunately, or fortunately, if you like it. You should know the function of each block diagram, of each block in this diagram. Okay, so let me see. Some of them are very simple. Antenna switch, I don't think that's too hard. Antenna switch is built in. Antenna 1, antenna 2, right here. Built right into the new radio. Low pass filter, built right into the radio nowadays. See, this diagram is probably based on the 1940s, right? This is an old diagram. This is the way you would set up your transmitter. Most of that is in here now. It's all in one unit. Okay, antenna tuner, it's in here. Antenna switch is in here. SWR bridge is right there. You see, low pass filter is in there. Linear amplifier is always an external device. Okay. So, can you tell me what is the function of the low pass filter? Anybody? Low pass filter, Dwayne.
Gets rid of harmonics.
Yeah.
Or reduces the chances of harmonics.
Yeah, it does. Anything that's going, it'll pass the low frequencies, which in this case we mean below 30 megahertz, or hopefully, I guess if it's 6 meter ring, below 50 megahertz, but it won't pass them higher. It won't pass the 2 meter, etc. So this way, it's protecting people who have other radios, equipments from you interfering with them. What's the function of the dummy load? That's in there. You need
Tune
to,
it so you can tune yourself.
yeah, so you can tune it. Very
You're on
good.
air.
Yeah. Now let's go into some typical kind of questions they ask. Of the components in a HF station, which component would normally be connected closest to the antenna tuner and the dummy load? See what I mean? This is a squirrely kind of question, but that's the kind of questions they ask you. Any ideas? If you go back to the diagram, you'll see it.
The antenna switch.
Absolutely correct, the antenna switch, you see? Okay, in an HF station, the antenna tuner is usually used for matching the transceiver with most antennas when operating below, most antennas when operating above, etc., etc. Which one do you think it is? If you go back to the diagram, you'll see it immediately.
I think the answer there is 1. Most antennas operating below.
Below, that's absolutely. If you look at the diagram, you'll see it. Okay, it's, you know, that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, that's what everybody has to do. When I took the test, I had the same diagram. I had to memorize it. Okay, of the components, we'll go to the next one. In an HF station, which component would you use to match the impedance between the transceiver and the antenna? Any ideas?
Antenna tuner.
Antenna tuner. Okay, see how easy this is? Let's move right along. Okay, this is the, this is also changed. This is the HF base station, digital base station. The input is the keyboard and the output is the monitor. They're showing the input-output there. And you've got a computer and a modem. The modem is essentially a sound card, the sound card of the computer, okay? In the old days, it was called a terminal node converter, and you had a big box, that you used, etc., etc. The modern setup uses, if we go up a little, the modern setup uses an interface. Oh, too much. Just a little. The modern setup uses an interface that has its own sound card. What did I do with it? Here it is here. See? This is called USB, Signal Link USB, okay? And you can see it's got a USB, and it's got this thing that goes to the radio. And you buy these based on the radio you have. This works on my radio, and the innards are designed to work on my radio. And what this does is it allows you to use digital modes, okay? But Mike helped me to find out that with just a USB connection between the radio and the computer, without the interface, we could do the same thing. That they don't really tell you this in the manual. They don't really explain it properly, but there's a sound card in this radio. Okay, so, now we're on a digital mode here, and this is called PSK31. Now, for those of you who have a cell phone, you know what texting is. This is texting over HF radio, and you could talk anywhere in the world. Okay, with this. You lose low power, you don't need high power to do this, and this system works really well. See, somebody's calling this. If he clicks on that, when you click on it, where's your mouse? Okay, then we'll get in here. Let me stop transmitting. We'll get in here, in there. We'll get his, okay, and, oh, he's gone. Okay, this is Mike's transmitter at home.
There it is.
Okay, so click on him and double click his call. Should go into there. It didn't go into the. Okay, well, we'll see. Okay, he's calling that. Okay, click his call here. See, yeah, okay, so he went into the logger. Okay, and now he can answer it.
You want to try?
Give it a try. Now he's transmitting. See? And this is already set up. You see, so he doesn't have to worry about typing that in. It's already set up in these macros that it'll go automatically. Now we'll see if the guy answers him. How many watts you got set up at home?
40 or 50.
Okay. Oh, something's coming back, but it's weak. Ah, there it is. No, it's somebody else. This is somebody typing, yeah?
We'll listen to the other's conversation part of it.
Is it possible to do that? I know that's a good question, but
What?
I'm assuming you can do this with voice as well, right?
You can do this with voice, yes.
Any special equipment?
There it is right there, microphone. That's it.
That's it.
But, and the radio, and the antenna, but the advantage of this is it works better than voice. It really does. It cuts through the interference, goes long distance, is low power, is only 60 hertz wide. 60 hertz wide. And it's at a rate, the 31, for PSK, the 31 comes from the 31 baud, which means that you could type quickly. The old systems you couldn't type. They were really slow. This one it'll keep up with your typing, okay?
You have to buy the software though?
Software is free.
That's right.
Yeah, it's
Software is free. You
It's on your
need
desk.
to buy the radio, and if your radio won't accommodate it, you'll have to buy Signal Link. Other than that, you're all set to go.
What Bruce has done is he's made actually, if you get a Kenwood like his, it actually there's a diagram on your disc that shows you how to configure it with that radio. Plus the software's, he's got the software as well we provided as well. You
Yeah.
can use it on any other radio. It's time to use it on a Kenwood. You can use it on any other radio.
You can use it any radio, yeah.
And that radio's got an SP port on it, so
Yeah,
you're laughing.
yeah.
Back to your computer, where you go.
Don't need radio.
You see, so to tune it, you don't have to tune the radio. You put it on that frequency, and you will get the band pass of the radio. And the signals appear, you just move your cursor on it, and you'll be listening to that radio. That
So you
signal.
get the total band from start to stop,
That's just the total band pass. That's
not the bandwidth.
no.
The whole thing from start.
That's what
Like 140 to
that's what the
144.
radio is capturing. It's capturing that whole amount, and then you'd have to tune it specifically, right? But you don't have to tune anything. Don't turn that knob. You just move your mouse, and it'll get it. See, there you go, right there. What a pleasure to chat with you. You can do this all over the world. Works really well. Now, one disadvantage of this is what we call the duty cycle. Okay, with CW, the duty cycle is very low. That the number of, because you're making dits and dots, the number of times that it's really operating is very low. But with this, they figure the duty cycle is 60-70%. So your radio is going to heat up faster. You know, but your power has been cut down. But if you really chat a lot for a long time, if you're on there typing for 15 minutes, your radio is going to heat up. Okay, and the fans are going to come on. They have protection, right? The fans will come on. Some people who are big chatters actually put extra fans at the back of them to solve that problem.
Would you still go through the repeater if you had to? Would it,
Not with this.
no.
No, this is your HF station to another HF station.
Right through the air.
Right
whatever-
through the air, yeah.
Through your antenna.
Yeah, through your antenna. This is not a repeater system. Hey, hello there. How's it going?
Good.
Okay, so let's get out of here. And let's go back to the write-up, please. Okay, because okay. Could I get that diagram again? Where is that stupid diagram? Yeah. Okay, so there's the diagram, which you need to know. And just bring it up just a little wee bit. They're going to ask you a question. Oh, just that way, sorry. Down just, yeah, that's good. The modem, on this setup that they're showing you, the modem or terminal node controller connects to the microphone input of the transceiver. That's still a question they're going to ask you. So in the old days, if you had a terminal node controller, you would connect it here, right, to the microphone. Nowadays, we don't do that. We're using SignalLink, we're using a USB, but that is a question that could be on the test, and you need to know where it goes, okay? So one up, please, now. Okay, not on the test. Purchasing equipment. Get advice from an established amateur. Phone me, phone Mike, phone Rolly, Brent, anybody else who's been an amateur, and ask, is this a good rig to buy? What are the problems, etc., before you put your money down, okay? And you can get reviews. If you click on that, click on that EHAM. I don't see where you, there it is, it's up there. You put it down there.
That's at the top again.
Is that the top? Okay, control click, click control, or control click. Okay. This has every radio, just about every radio that was ever made is in there. And it also will give you a sort of a price guide as well. So you can look up your the radio, like if somebody is selling a radio, you could look it up and see what the comments are about that radio. Okay? Or you can ask a local amateur as well. They will help you out with it. So, you know, somebody has used that rig. If it's an old one, somebody has used that rig in this city and will know what the problems are with it, okay? So let's go back we won't spend any more time on this one. Go back to the right up. Yeah, okay. You can also, before you buy the rig, you can download the manual. Click that one. That's it. Oh, unable to open. Okay, try it again. If it doesn't work, we'll give up. Won't work. Okay. You can get the manuals online. So before buying the radio, it's a good idea. Get the manual and see if you think it's too complicated. Some of these radios are complicated. But the whole instruction manual for this radio is available online. Now, this is another problem. We had other classes that always wanted us to give them hands-on teaching about radios. And that's impossible. Why is that impossible? Because this radio is different than the ICOM. Everything about it is different. It does essentially the same thing. Some of the features are the same, but it is different. The only way you could learn how to use this radio is to get the manual and go through it step by step. That's the only way you're going to learn. You have to push every button, try everything, and see what happens. Just like when you first bought your first computer, you had absolutely no idea how to use it. You had to try everything out. That's what you're going to have to do with this radio. So we cannot teach you how to use it. I know how to use this one. I do not know how to use an ICOM. You might find an amateur who knows how to use an ICOM or a Yaesu. And then you'll pick their brains to, you know, and get some help that way. Okay, moving on. So yeah, this is not on the test. This is part of the manual, and you can see how they show you everything. Okay, we can still go. This is not on the test. Remember we went through this with antennas. Okay, this is a G5RV. This is a very simple antenna to make. It's probably cheaper to buy it. I think it's $50, $60 to buy it. $50, $60 to buy it. You put it up, bingity bang, it works. The antenna tuner in this radio will tune it to everything except 160 meters. Even tunes it to the 6 meter band. So if you're going to get serious, this is one way to get on the air quickly. Okay, keep moving. It's not on the test. There's all the dimensions of the antenna. It's on your disc if you choose to build it. Okay, and the cautions about building it, that you have to make sure that the twin lead is not close to any metal at all, or it's not going to work, at least 1 foot away. You can make the antenna in an inverted V if you wish. Okay, let's keep going. Now, here is, here is something, it's on the test, and everybody has, a problem with this, but you essentially have to memorize it. Because there's at least going to be two, what would you say, Mike, 2, 3 questions on this?
I know when I got my test, it was QSL was on it.
With 3 or 4 questions on this? Or?
So,
Yeah,
when I did mine.
okay. So if you don't know this, you're going to lose 3 or 4 marks. So what this is used mainly in Morse code, mainly, but it's also used in voice operation. Okay, it's also used, and this is what amateur radio operators are using all the time when they talk to each other. Okay, they'll say, "I just had a QSO with Russia." Well, what the heck do they mean by that? It means I had a communication. I talked to Russia. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is give you a short form, a mnemonic that you can learn these by. You might want to write them down because it'll help you remember them. QRL. This one should be down here, but my computer goes squirrely sometimes. Okay, QRL. Without the question mark, it means do not interfere. The way I learned it is really listen. RL, really listen. That you're not interfering with anybody. QRL question mark, you're really asking, is this frequency available for use? That's what it means. QRM is, without the question mark, I am experiencing interference. Okay, interference. That means somebody else is transmitting close to my frequency, okay, causing me problems. So the M stands for man-made. Okay? That's somebody else transmitting. If I said QRM question mark, are you being, that means are you being interfered with? Is somebody interfering with your signal? QRN is natural. In other words, static. Lightning crashes, QRN. So if I say in my Morse code QRN, you usually say it with a signal report. You give a signal report and then you say QRN. It means I'm receiving you, here's the strength of the signal, etc. But I am experiencing static. Okay? QSB, the B, the way I do that, remember, this is natural, this is man-made, this is bouncing. That's the way I learned it. Bouncing, it means the signal is going in and out, fading. Okay? And Brent talked about what causes fading. Okay? QSY, in other words, why are you here? Okay? Change frequency. So they will say QSY 10 up means 10 kilohertz. So he's giving you a clue as to where to go. Because maybe there's interference here. He'll say QSY 2 up. Okay, to tell you to go 2 up. Going 2 up, there's 14, 14, okay. Where is the 2 up? Okay, but it's got to be here. So, am I doing this right? 14, 1. Two. I went 2 up. Okay, and he's going to be there waiting for you. QSL, I acknowledge, send letter. That's how you remember that one, send letter. QRV, I am ready. Pretty hard to get a mnemonic for that one. QRU, nothing for you. That's usually end the conversation with that. QSO is our conversation. So you could say operation or whatever. QTH, the house, the hotel. That's the way you remember them. QTH is your location. Can we go up a little? Whoa. Yeah, QTH. Do we need to keep going? We went through QTH. QRO, QRQ, send faster. QRS, send slower. Well, that's, reduce speed, send slower. QRT, stop, terminate. You can remember terminate there. QRZ, you are being called by. So you will hear that on voice as well. Some people will say QRZ to frequency, which means, who's calling me. Okay. QSK, can you hear me between my signals? That's a feature of your radio. You could set your radio. Okay, you got to get rid of that. Got to get rid of that. Otherwise, we're going to be sued. I could throw it away for you. Okay, thank you. You could set the radio up so that it's, when you're using Morse code, it switches back and forth. So you send a dit or a da, but you could still hear if the other guy is transmitting. So that's what it means, I hear you between my signals. Okay? And you could set the radio up that way. So if he's coming back, you could hear him, right? That's what QSK means. It's a feature of the radios. QRO, increase your power. QRP is decrease your power. QRP is a whole aspect of amateur radio. It's low power, below 5 watts or lower. Okay? This is what a lot of amateurs do. They build their own little radios and they transmit 5 watts or lower and try to get as far as they can get. In many cases, they get around the world with 5 watts. I've talked to a lot of guys on 5 watts. And you can get into the hobby with very minimal costs when you go QRP. QRX, I will call you again. Okay, I hate to do that to you, but you pretty well got to memorize them. Okay, moving right along. Up we go. You never know who you're going to meet when you're on the air. You recognize this guy?
Elf? Oh, that's a two-man, eh?
Yeah.
Two-man?
What's his name?
Tim the two-man?
Ken Allen.
Tim Allen, yeah. And this is the show. What's the show called?
Last one standing?
Last Man Standing. There you go. Okay.
Looks like the set of elf.
Moving right along. Okay. These are not on the test. Okay. But, you know, when you get your certificate, it's handy to go through these because this is amateur radio lingo. This is the way we talk. We always say, "old man," "old boy." You know, these are the short forms that we're using. The guy will say, "I can't talk to you because the XYL is downstairs." Well, he means his wife. Eh? If she's not married, it's the YL, the young lady. XYL is no longer young lady. 73, best regards. It's used on code, but it's also used on voice. 73 means best regards. 88, if it's a woman will give 88, which is hugs and kisses. Okay. It's not on the test, but it's something that eventually you'll need to know.
So the guys aren't hugs and kissing yet? Guys don't give hugs and kisses?
No. Just best regards. Girls, only girls. It's a rule. Okay. Moving right along.
That's what everybody's saying CQ for. Now I know what that
Okay.
stands for.
Here's the, CQ means general inquiry. FB, some people would use that on voice. You really shouldn't use it. Fine business. Let me see. That's about it. These are not on the test, as I say. Oh yeah, lid. That'll be used on sideband. Lid means bad operator. Moving right along.
What's the definition of a bad operator?
Well, I guess that's a subjective thing. You know, somebody thinks you're a bad operator, and they'll say, "Get off the band, you lid." Something like that.
Poor typer?
Yeah.
Bad speller?
So, it really, you know, you shouldn't really use it, but it is used. This, you need to memorize this. There's no way around it. They're going to ask you questions on this. Please, whatever you do, do not say, "My name is," let me see, "bananas, rubber," you know. Don't do that, you know, because it makes life so confusing in voice. If you start using your own phonetic alphabet, you know, it's impossible to follow. It's Bravo, Romeo, Uniform, Charlie, Echo. That's my name. Use it. That's what you should be using, not something that you invented. Okay, this is the proper phonetic code. You need to memorize it. It's on the test.
This is used in English.
Hmm?
In English.
Yes. I don't know. What is it in French? Same thing? Same thing. There you go. Only the accent changes. Okay, moving along. There's the rest of it. Okay. Okay, there's a fellow, a typical amateur station. No. And if you're very observant, you can see a few things. There's his call. KF7LU. Looks like he was in the Army. Now look at, there's the Astron power supply. Here's the rig. I can't figure out what his rig is. A Yaesu, there you go. There's his microphone. There's his handheld up here, etc. He's got a rig runner somewhere. There's his rig runner. He's running DC power through that rig runner to all of his equipment. Okay? So, now if you want to find out something about K7LU, there's a site called QRZ. QRZ means, QRZ question mark, who is calling me? So it's qrz.com. You type that in qrz.com, and it'll give you all the information about him. His station, where he's located, give you a map to show you where he is. And once you get to know the call signs, you will know that he is in Alaska. Okay, let's get rid of him. Okay, okay, Morse code. This is the contact. Not again.
That's something else.
Okay, this is the contact in Morse code. If some of you, most people go on voice, but if some of you are interested in Morse code, we're going to teach a code course as well. You don't need it to get your HF privileges unless you get the 70%. That if you take the code test and get 5 words a minute, you're automatically upgraded to HF privileges. Okay, so the first thing you do in Morse code is if you send QRL code test. That means, is this frequency busy? You're going to be doing basically the same thing in HF. Just about time, eh? We'll finish this and then come up with the single sideband one. The thing to remember is nobody owns the frequency. If somebody is there, then he uses it until he's finished. And you want to use that frequency, then you have to wait to use that frequency or go to another frequency. There's lots of frequencies, so you just go somewhere else, okay? So you ask that first, is this frequency busy? QRL. And then you call. And it's the same basically in voice as it is in Morse code, CQ, CQ. But instead of saying this is, which you would say in English, you say DE, which means this is, VA3ZB, VA3ZB. AR means end of transmission, okay? And then you wait until somebody comes back to you. If he comes back, he's going to give your call first. He's going to say VA3ZB, D, DE, VA3WMZ, K, which means over, okay? At this point, once you've exchanged calls, that's the QSO. That's the conversation, that's the contact, exchanging calls. Okay, that's it. It doesn't have to go any further than that if you don't want. And it doesn't go any further with DX stations, okay? And remember this, the station that called owns the frequency. It's using, the station that called, the CQ, has the frequency. So if somebody else comes in and calls the other guy that called you, that's a no-no. That frequency is presently the property of the first guy who called, which was me. Okay? So if the other guy, if another guy comes in, you have to tell him to move off the frequency. QSY. That means move off, please. Because this frequency is mine, because I started first and I'm using it. These are kinds of the rules of the road. Okay, if the guy, most of the time the people will get to this stage. A DX station won't get to this stage. The DX station only wants your call, period. And he'll give you a signal report and that's it, it's over with. DX means distant transmission, right? But you can get into this, the information at exchange, RST, readability, strength, and tone in Morse code. It's only readability and strength in single sideband. Okay, so here are the scales. The readability is 1 to 5, the strength is 1 to 9, and the tone is 1 to 9. Okay, so it's subjective. You just tell them what you think it is, okay, with how well you can copy it. Obviously, it's a 1 or a 2 or even a 3, you're really not copying. You're copying at about a 4 to 5 level, okay? So let's say you're giving him a 4. Now this one, the strength, where does it come from? Comes from your meter. The meter will show you what it is, okay? You can give him that. It's not a really, it is, here again, it's not really a good indication of strength, but it's what amateurs do. 1 to 9 is the tone. Well, they used to give an indication of tone when sets were hand built. you know, the tone could be really, really bad. But every modern transceiver now, the tone on Morse code is going to be excellent. So it's almost not worth giving it. And a lot of operators just give 599. That's it. They just go, why am I doing this? Just 599. Okay. You give your name. These basically three pieces of information you need: the RST, the name, and the QTH, your location. Okay. Let's keep going. Yeah. Now you just respond if you're answering the fellow, you just respond with the information that he gives you. If he gives you just his call and says thank you, TU, that's it. He doesn't want anything else. If he gives you a signal report, his name and his location, then you give your signal report, your name and your location. Then you put it back to him. You leave it up to him if he wants to go further. Now, if he starts talking about the weather, right, or his radio, which they usually always, amateurs are always incessantly talking about their radios, okay, because they're proud of them. If he gives you that, then he wants to chat. Okay, so then you give him your radio, your weather, etc., etc., okay? That's the chat. Now, this chat can take as long as you want. I talked to a guy in Norway for 2 hours with the chat, okay? So you could do that if you want. You could talk forever if you want. There's no law or limit. Whatever you guys want to do is up to you. However, you don't hold anybody back. Anybody that wants to leave, you let them leave. Okay? This is a rule. You don't hang on to the QSO if the guy says, well, I'm out of here. Okay, you let him go. The excuse is usually what somebody will give you. They'll say, the wife is calling, it's time for lunch. There's a million excuses. They'll give you an excuse. And then the end, and I didn't really put this in here, I should have. Every time you go over, you should be identifying. So you give, if he's sending it back to me, he gives my call first, then his call. If I'm sending it back to him, I give his call first, then my call. And you do that every time. Okay? Now, you only have to do it in a half hour, but I believe in doing it. I believe in doing it every time. Okay? At the end, you say SK, which is a silent key, means that you stop sending, and CL, closing, means that you're pulling the plug on your station. In other words, if somebody else wants to talk to you, you're not going to be there, right? You're closing down your transmitter, is closing. You should say that on voice and sideband too. But SK, silent key. Now, silent key is used in conversations. You'll say, oh, what about old George? Well, he's an SK, he's a silent key, meaning he died. Okay? That's what SK also means. It's used. Any questions so far? We're going to break for...
Is any of that on the test?
Yes, they ask you about conversations on the test. They ask you things like, how would you make a general call?
But did they talk about protocol on the test, you think?
Yeah, they talk about this sort of protocol, yeah.
Oh, so you talk to somebody, now that whole conversation is guided to you by the other person if it's their channel?
Yeah, they're in control. The other person's in control.
It's never a free conversation?
Oh, it's free. It's whenever you want. But that frequency belongs to the guy who started.
Right, so if he decides
To pull the
he
plug?
doesn't want to talk to you anymore, you have to leave?
That's right.
Okay.
So if he says, so for instance, he says, he gets your call, and he says, the name is George, the QTH is Las Vegas. You give him that, and you send it back to him, and he says, thank you very much. Boom, you're out of there. And then he starts calling again, CQ, you see? He wants more stations. Amateurs want to get as many contacts as they can. It's a sort of a, compulsive sort of thing. So he wants to keep getting stations. So he contacts you, he's happy, got the information he wants, and that's it.
It's like collected phone numbers at the bar?
That's exactly right.
Some people, though, if you don't mind, some people, when I was on the radio before, I was trying to make a state.
Yeah,
So
you
I would go on there calling for hours, hoping that I would get some state different than what I've got
Yeah.
on a map, right? There's-
That's another way you could do it. You could say CQ Alaska, see? Or CQ Idaho, whatever you, if you want to make a contact with that. On CW, you often hear CQ Asia. About 4 or 5, they're trying to get Japan or China or whatever, and they'll call CQ Asia.
You can't join in another conversation unless.
No,
invited?
he's got that frequency. He wants to talk to Asia, right? So
So you never hear a conversation.
you don't talk to him. There's a million frequencies. You go up and you say CQ Alaska. That's who you want to talk to. Now
So
most
if people are chatting, if you hear people chatting, you can join in.
no, you shouldn't. Now there's a way of doing it in Morse code. When they say over, they'll say K or they'll say KN. Now if they say KN in Morse code means do not interfere, only between me and him, right? But when their conversation is finished, and usually, I don't know, 10 minutes, let's say, if you wanted, let's say the guy was in England and you wanted to talk to him, you wait until he's finished, right? You know, and so he's finished talking to this guy in the United States. Then what you do, as soon as he's finished, the other guy's either going to call CQ or you could call him at that point.
So if I'm listening in on the radio and I hear a conversation that is worth, participating in, I'm not allowed to participate.
Not really.
Oh,
That belongs to those two guys.
well,
You know,
I always thought of it more as a open forum than
we do have
than
open.
it's like it's not-
eavesdropping on a conversation.
You're almost thinking of a bunch, like, let's say, for example, one night, me and Mike and Bruce are bored, so me and him and Mike, we get on to the radio and we're just chatting up a storm,
Yeah.
okay? If we're talking about what Mike did today and Bruce is fixing a clock, I know if you're trying to get into that conversation, sometimes it's wrong, okay? But sometimes if they say, oh, by the way, it says, come on up, you can go over and hear.
Yeah.
That's
That-
different. But I may know
Right.
Bruce for years, and I don't want to be bothered explaining to you why I'm saying that he's the clock doctor. You know,
No, I
it's a private. It's like a private.
It's like a private
That's why
conversation.
open eavesdropping.
But the guy that started off, right? The guy that started off, calling CQ, he's talking to you. He could pick up the mic or the key and say, I welcome other operators. Then anybody can join in. But it's up to that guy. If he doesn't want to talk to anybody else, he only wants to talk to that guy, that's it. Okay?